Now this is where I do things a little bit differently to most people. I say, do you want to upgrade your discount code? We'll give you an extra 15%, or we'll give you 20%, or we'll give you $20, whatever it is. Something juicier because SMS is more powerful.
As part of our YouTube series, How to Create a $1 Million Brand, I did say that I was going to get our consultants in simply because they know more than me in these domains. They have taught me a lot. They implement a lot of things for my brands as well as they help our internal team scale out those channels. So today I've got Jason Williamson here. He is an absolute SMS gun. So we're going to go through some crazy hacks today, some of his past experience, and yeah, hopefully you're going to get a lot of value from it as well. So welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I thought we'd start with a bit of a story. You told me one before we started rolling about SMS marketing and how it can really turn a business around.
Yeah, so it's really hard to give people kind of like these real world examples, and I really like to bring in, I guess, characters that people know. So a good one is Gary Vaynerchuk. Everybody knows who Gary is. And when Gary kind of like built the business wine library that, he kind of built into with his parents, he built it up to, I think it was something like $64 million annually by taking it online. And Gary decided to exit out of that business. He wanted to exit out of his business, start his own. So he went ahead and started VaynerMedia. So after he kind of exited out, obviously his parents didn't know what Gary knew. And eventually the business started to decline, and it eventually halved. So his dad was like, hey, Gary, we need your help. Like, I need you to come back and kind of fix the business. So he came back in, and with, with the skills of VaynerMedia and stuff like that, he implemented something that kind of, masterminded a couple of things and came up with something that they called wine text. And it's basically SMS marketing. So what they would do is they'd have a landing page, and people would come in and enter their main details, right? Like, phone number, mailing address, first name, last name, and also their credit card detail. So once they're on this list, they're also saved. So the credit card saved using Stripe or something. Mm-hmm. And eventually he'd start sending out these SMS blasts, and I think they did daily deals. So every day they'd text out this list of daily deals, and people would just buy with it using their credit card that's already subscribed. And it turns out that business model there, that channel of marketing being SMS, even though back in the day when they first started, it would have been even more fruitful than today, because it's the same with email. But what it said was that he said that he had an email list of 400,000 people, and this 9,000 SMS subscriber list outperformed that list consistently by more than 9 times.
Amazing.
So it shows right there the power of SMS.
Definitely, and it's often overlooked as well, which I'm sure we'll get into today for a multitude of reasons. So I'm just going to list off some facts about yourself so people know that they're listening to the right person. So you're a platinum partner at Klaviyo. You're featured on OptiMonk. You've worked with over 350 brands. You're a Postscript partner as well, which is our SMS partner, and you've done over $75 million in retention marketing. How many years is that over?
I started officially when I was about 22, so I'm 28 now.
Yeah, tell me about how you got started.
Oh, how I got started is a wild story. It's actually pretty cool. I think it's a good story, and it's for a lot of people actually, because my story is the whole, I want to avoid swearing, but Tony Robbins says if you want to take the island, you got to burn your boats. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I used to be an electrician, and my dad, he's owned his own business in sign writing. So he did signs for Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all those types of people, and he was trades is the way to go. So I got into, I think I left school in year 10, started becoming an electrician. I got to the point where I'd finished all my schooling, done everything, but there was just something in me that I'd seen. I used to work at a place called VIP Electrical, and I'd seen my boss at the time. He was probably making maybe $500,000 a year in profit for himself, which is awesome. And I was like, dang, that's what I want. But what I started to realize is he had financial freedom, but he had no time freedom. Every time something went wrong, he'd fly back from his Bali hotel. He'd have to come into the office. He'd have to fix the problem, head back out to his Bali hotel. And he'd be in and out 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. I thought to myself, I want to have the financial freedom, but I also want the time freedom. Because for some reason, actually, there's not some reason. When I was 19, I got hit by a car. We were on just on a night out, having a couple of drinks. I was meant to leave to Brisbane. with my dad, because dad owns his own business. We were going to go up there, start the business. And had a couple of drinks, had a bunch of friends with me, and we were, ironically, at the time, going to a club called Heaven, which is a funny place to be on the way to and get hit by a car. But we saw this girl pass down in the middle of the road, so I've run over to help. As I've gone over, my jeans got caught on the fence, taxi pulled out of the sideway, hit me straight in the face. I got thrown back into the fence, I was unconscious, my friends come over, said I wasn't breathing, and then they like turned around and said, Jace, like, wake up, and they said, somebody call an ambulance. So as they've turned around and goes, somebody call an ambulance. He like looks back at me and he goes, you just stood up. He goes, I don't know how. Because you just stood up and you were like, what just happened?
Amazing.
So I went over to the wall and the ambulance like finally came over and it was like, we don't know how you're not dead. Like you could have broken your neck. We think you might have broken your back and your nose is like this. It was like, you should have died. We don't know how, you didn't. And then fast forward a couple of days later, they says, 7 to 10 days, you got to go see the ear, nose and throat specialist because your nose was so swollen, we couldn't. And I had a headache and I was dizzy. So I went in early, probably like 5 days early. And I told him the story and there was one particular detail that I wasn't even going to mention. But as I was stood against the wall, my friend hugged me and he goes, oh, that's weird. Your nose started to bleed, but then it stopped. And for some reason I mentioned this. And he says, I never do this, but let me just test. He goes, nothing's going to be wrong, it's fine, but let me just test. So he gets a needle, pulls out blood. Turns out I had a blood clot right here.
Oh my gosh.
So if I'd have left it till the 7 days, he said, again, I probably would have died because it would have stopped blood flow to the brain. So like twice in the space of a week.
So lucky.
Yeah, it's twice in the space of a week. So I guess I developed this sense of urgency and this sense of like time is not always going to be there, and I got it tattooed on my arm as well, like literally that tomorrow is never like promised, like live for today as tomorrow may never come. So that's kind of what led me into where I was. I decided that this isn't something I want to do. I don't want to be an electrician, and I got all the way through my schooling, I got to the point where I was literally a signature away. And during that time of doing schooling, during like kind of doing all this, I'd been reading about Russell Brunson, right? .com secrets and all that type of stuff. And it turns out in Sydney, there's a guy called Mal Emery, apparently the millionaire maker in Australia. I'd seen one of his webinars. I decided, you know what? Burn your boats, right? And I took out a credit card. I had like $2,000 on my credit card at the time. I think I put the tickets on that. And then the rest of my money, I think in my savings, I'd put on like the hotel and, flights. And I said to my boss, I'm sick. So boss, if you ever see this, I'm sorry. I told him, I said, I'm sick, I can't make it. And then I flew over there on Friday, met Russell Brunson. I said to him, I remember saying to him, I said, you don't know me yet, but one day you will. And it turns out, I think there was a guy there, I can't remember his name, but he's from Melbourne. I ended up having a podcast with him too. And he goes, I remember you that day. I remember you saying that to him. He was his content creator at the time. And I met this guy, I can't remember his name now, but it's Stephen Esser. You remember when webinars were all the phase?
Yeah.
Like launching your 6-figure brand online with a webinar?
It still is almost.
It still is, but back then it was fire. Like there were so many people doing it. He ropes me in with this really charismatic talk. And I says, I've got to do what he's doing. Like I've got to do it. So I went up to him, I says, I've got to do what you do. And he goes, what can you do? I says, I don't know, I'm 20. And so he goes, what are you good at? I says, like, how do you package your information? I said, I'm 20, I don't know anything. Nobody's going to learn how to be half an electrician. And he says, what are you good at? I says, I'm good at talking. And I'm good at writing. He goes, can you do emails? I said, I can learn. Ever since then, I just did email marketing. I literally dived in. A good friend of mine, Murray Edwards, I said to him, he was doing, he did this teeth whitening, he did advanced teeth whitening in Australia. He was doing really well. And I said to him, I said, Murray, are you doing emails? He goes, no. I said, let me do it for free. So I jumped in for about 6 months, started learning Klaviyo, started learning, all that type of stuff. And it was pretty much history from there. It was literally to the point where I came, the kind of final straw was, I'd been working with Murray for about 6 months. He goes, I need some help running the business. It's growing too big and I only trust you. He goes, I'll give you an option. And at the time, I'd gone into a roof as an electrician. I was just still going into it. It was like 2 months from being fully qualified. I just needed a signature. And as I stood up, I tore my lateral meniscus in a roof. So I started to go on, like some sort of leave where I had to like repair myself. I can't remember what to call it anymore. And he says to me, he goes, look, you got two choices. You can go down the route that you're going down and, you don't want to do it. He says, or come work for me. I'll give you 3 months. But in the meantime, when you're not working, you can focus on your business. Threw all my stuff in the back of my car, like literally black bin bags. At the age of I was like 21, I think I was, going on 21.
threw all my clothes in the back of a bin bag, like threw it in the back of my car, literally drove from Adelaide to Sydney, like to meet this guy that I've only known on the internet. It sounded a bit creepy. And that was it.
On the way up there, and this is where I feel like the universe rewards you when you take massive action. There's a guy called Joshua Tatum. He runs something called Canvas Cultures. And Josh was at an event in LA. It was some Pixel Mastery or something like that. And whilst I was driving up there, he'd happened to mention, because I started working with him too, he started to happen to mention, I've got a good email marketer. And literally on the way up there, I got 4 new clients. I feel like that was the universe rewarding me for taking massive action. And I literally went from like making, I don't know, I was making like $500 a week or something as a Sparky, to I went up to like $2.5, $3 a week just right there in contracts.
It's amazing.
I mean, that's a long story, but
it's such a, obviously it's not common for everyone to be hit by a car, but it is a common thing that people, you know, just wake up one day and they just fed up and they don't want to go into the rat race that they're so used to growing up seeing. And then, you know, just trying to find financial freedom. So, but that is an insane story, man. It's amazing how much, you know, value has come out of the world as well from those choices that you've made. So I'd love to talk about some of that value as well, in the fact that, yeah, you've got some crazy SMS hacks. I absolutely love hearing them. Every time I want to hear a new hack or try to implement one, I always message you. So maybe let's just jump into some of the value. What are some recent SMS hacks that you've done? What should people be setting up with their SMS stuff?
yeah, sure. So SMS it's such a lucrative channel. And I think it's going to become even more so because I know, and this doesn't sound good because everyone gets scared when you talk about compliance, but it's really important to talk about first. Because it's kind of like, you know, you go up and you try and take a girl on a date, you kind of got to ask for her permission. You know, if you want to get her phone number, you can't just go over, grab her phone when she's not looking, because that's not going to work. She's going to get the text message and like, who the heck is this? It's not going to work. So the first and foremost, we'll talk about compliance. SMS is great. I can tell you as many hacks, but if you're not compliant, it doesn't matter. Just not to scare anybody, but Victoria's Secret got sued for $5 million US for being non-compliant. So I know for a lot of businesses out there, that's potentially bankrupting. So first and foremost, I'm going to touch base on that. Compliance is basically just getting explicit consent from the user to market to them via text message. So a lot of people think, I've got this checkbox on my website that says I consent to email and SMS marketing. And then they think, oh, that's okay, that's all I need. Well, no, you need a privacy policy and a terms of services so they know what you're doing with their information. But you also need to state that this is going to be automated, but you also need to make sure that they tick that checkbox with like, you know, consciousness. They need to consciously tick that checkbox. If it's already ticked by default, you're non-compliant, because they've not given you explicit consent. So if anybody takes anything away from this, if you're doing that, you're not doing it right. What you need to do, and this is where it gets tough, I know that Shopify is coming out with a solution shortly, but right now in the current, the current economy where we are right now, we do what we do with, you know, the brands that I work with you. We have a separate checkbox at the bottom that has all the proper consent language. And that is by default unchecked. So if anybody wants to subscribe to our SMS, they have to press that button, which makes us 110% compliant. Now, a couple ways around it. You might say to me, well, Jace, that sounds like, you know, I can't really do it because I don't have Shopify Plus. And a lot of people think, well, I'm out of the SMS game. Nah. There's a couple of ways that you can start to get it. I'll probably list my top 3. The first one, and my girlfriend always laughs at this, she always kind of like dubs me she calls it, can I upgrade your discount TM? So what I've started to do with a lot of brands that I work with is I love email. Email's like where I started. It's what I do. It gets me the best results because I can scale it astronomically. Right now, it's hard to implement everything because of the current, you know, we're still figuring out compliance and stuff, TCPA changes, blah, blah, blah. The first thing that I do is I collect an email subscriber. Right? I use pop-ups like, you know, $25 off or 10%. If anybody's listening and pays attention, 10% is, for me, often my most highest converting, because psychology behind it is people just understand 10% easier. You know, they can do the maths. If I got a $100 item, I just saved $10. So I always ask, hey, you saved 10%, where should we send your discount? So they'll then enter their email. I only ask for email because don't need anything more yet. They'll hit submit. Now this is where I do things a little bit differently to most people. I say, hey, do you want, it's kind of like the McDonald's, do you want to get fries with that? I say, do you want to upgrade your discount code? They say yes, they say no. If they say no, they go down the normal route of an email.
If they say yes, they get taken to another, it's like a step on the pop-up. And that simply says, hey, if you give us, if you join the SMS club, we'll give you an extra 15%, or we'll give you 20%, or we'll give you $20, whatever it is. Something juicier because SMS is more powerful. A little fact about SMS, 5.8 billion devices in the world, right? So pretty much everybody has a phone. 98% of text messages are read by the end of the day. So more than likely you're gonna get them read. I mean, 116 average emails a day an adult gets. Most of them aren't opened. Open rates are sitting at around 16% on industry standard. So we know that the SMS is super powerful. And it's like, I am more than happy to give a nice juicy offer to get that SMS. So when they say, like, when I tell them that you get $20 off or 20%, this upgraded offer, I'll then put a little button and all they have to do is click it. Once they click it, it opens a pre-populated text message. It also underneath has all the compliant language. Opens a pre-populated text message. They'll send it with a keyword, which a lot of programs like PostScript will be able to do this for you all automatically. So it's super, super easy. And when they hit send, automatically it will return a message. They're now subscribed. They've joined your list. You now have their phone number, and instantly they get back a text message with all the details, if you choose to put the discount code in there, and link back to your store.
Beautiful.
So powerful.
You mentioned PostScript. What is the pop-up tool that you're using to do that flow? Optimonk.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any others alternatives?
So there is a bunch of alternatives. I avoid a couple of the well-known ones. There's one particular one, I won't mention the name because I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Of course.
There's one that I don't use. It's commonly known, but there was something that I heard for a long time that went around, circulated, that they'd had a data leak, so I just choose not to use them. I'll just say that it's a common one that's kind of cheap, so I would avoid it. Pop-ups to me are extremely important, so if anybody's paying attention to the pop-up, it should be, and I'll give a free tip here, this is what I call my secret sauce. This is what nobody does, and I've been doing this for 6 years. The reason is, the story behind it is, when I first got those clients, right, when I first kind of like moved to Sydney, I had one particular client. He was crushing like $500,000-$600,000 a month, no email at all. He says, Jace, I'll pay you on, I think it was 5% commission. And my flows, all my automations was part of that. And he got to a point where he was paying me like 10, 15K a month. And he was like, yeah, this isn't working, like, it's a lot of money. Yeah. And I was like, he goes, look, these pop-ups you're doing are amazing, they're capturing customers, but Jace, most of these people are gonna become customers anyway. I said, look, I hear you, you're probably right. I mean, email's guaranteed it, but you're probably right. So I dived into this journey of figuring out using Google Analytics and creating these custom mobile reports, because we can do exit intent on desktop, but we can't do it on mobile because we can't detect where the thumb's gonna go. So I thought, well, the only way to do this is to use a custom mobile report, be specific to the page that we're on, and analyze the drop-off time. What's the average exit time of a customer or a visitor on that web page? When do they become the most unengaged? And I put my pop-up 5 seconds before that. So now I'm not disrupting anybody, I'm not annoying anybody, I'm not taking what was revenue that could have been a full paying customer and enticing them with a discount and training them to expect discounts. Now I'm only getting the least engaged people. So I think it's really important that you find a pop-up software that has that capability. A lot of them don't have the capability of really going granular on the page, and Optimonk offers that. So that's why I choose to use Optimonk, but if you want to use, there's another one that I've just got introduced to, it's called Adoric. Really, really super nice software, easy to split test, really easy to set up. All the templates are beautiful, so just from the jump, you can go create a really, really good looking premium pop-up. I'm pretty sure they offer like good 30-day trials and stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't think pop-ups, if you're doing them the way that I do them, and I'm more than happy to, if anybody ever wants to reach out to me on Facebook, I don't care, I'll tell you what it is. I'm not trying to hide anything. But if you're doing pop-ups right, you don't need to find a cheaper alternative because it is so cost effective. I mean, I think you've seen, if you look at your pop-ups revenue, that that the fee is worth it.
Yeah, we've been quite happy with Optimonk. The design capabilities as well is also important. But yeah, we've had no problems with it. That is a very, very good hack, both with the pop-up timing and also, how that all works. You mentioned you had 2 more hacks?
The other one that I really enjoy is, it's just a very simple way of getting your already existing email list. You can, and it gets a little bit techy, but if you just want to be simple, all you're doing is putting a footer in your template at the bottom of your email that just says join the SMS club and receive blah, blah, blah. It's the same strategy. So once they get an email, they might go to the bottom. Say if you post a lot of content, I love to do content, especially when it comes to beauty brands. I think building that relationship, is super important. I don't want a relationship with my email list that's, they've emailed me, what do they want now? I know there's one particular brand that I'm on right now, and I know every single time they email me, it's a sale. So now it starts to get to at first it's okay. After a while, then I go, leave me alone. Stop asking me to buy from you. Say, for example, how VaynerMedia had 400,000 subs. If he'd have been able to implement a strategy like that, I think it would have been harder back then. He could have taken, I don't know, even 10, 20% of that, subscriber list on their email, turn them into SMS subscribers, and that's going to astronomically grow. So if you already have a subscriber base, if you already have all that data, those people as subscribers, you can really turn them into SMS subscribers very, very quickly. And then the last one, I think it's really cool. There's kind of a combination here. I'll actually talk about two of them. One of them is a QR code. Again, same thing, you do need to put the consent, always kind of have the opt-in language, but you can put a little QR code. I think they say you can put it on your, I wouldn't put it on your packaging, I'd probably put it on your welcome, like in the little slip, but you can say things like, scan your phone here to get a 20% discount code for a friend, and I put it in my packaging, I put 3 of them as like a little coupon, I say give these to your friends. And they can't see what it is, but it's a hidden discount code. When they hit it, it says, join the subscriber, join Pepito's subscriber club, and get 20% off with the keyword friends with benefits, something like that, right? And then bang, they join your SMS club, they join that, it sends back the discount, easy, right? They're now part of your SMS, and it's a cute, fun little way to do it. So QR codes on your packaging, very cool.
Who creates that QR code? Is that native PostScript?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any way that you can create the QR code independently from PostScript, so you kind of own it and then link it to PostScript?
There's plenty of apps on the internet if you just search to make QR codes.
Yeah, I reckon we'll be doing that. We've been looking into it for Udi packaging. I think it's going to be pretty powerful for sure.
Yeah, I think Udi as well. I think of being an Australian audience, I think the keyword friends with benefits, I think it's pretty funny, it's pretty cheeky.
Yeah. The behavioral change in people with QR codes as well is something to capitalize on. Everyone's scanning, coming into shops and stuff like that. I remember people were saying QR codes were just useless about 2 years ago. And now it's just people can't live without
everyday thing, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Literally enter a shop, bang. So we've been trained to do it.
Yeah.
Which is good for us.
All right, third hack. What is it?
Yeah, so third/fourth. This one is to do with your Instagram. So you can actually do a very similar thing. You can actually do a link to exactly the same thing, where it's always a pre-populated text because you've got to somehow do it. You can text to opt-in. Australia it doesn't work as well because the numbers are very American.
Yeah.
So people aren't going to do it. But this one you can literally just go to your Instagram stories. And you can create Instagram stories, which is really cool. Or if you want to save 20% off, and you can turn them into highlights that they swipe up. And when they swipe up, it creates that pre-populated message.
Gotcha.
So utilizing your Instagram traffic with a highlight at the front, just saying, want to learn how to save 20%, click next. And then it's save 20% by joining the SMS club, terms and services apply, swipe up. And there you have it. And that's a constant traffic at all times on your highlights. So whenever you're funneling traffic in, if you're using influencers, if you're using Instagram marketing, people are checking out your Instagram, they're funneling through. Everybody starts looking at highlights. I know I do. And I'm not even big on Instagram, but I'm still curious.
Yeah.
And they're right there. Another way to kind of organically grow that SMS list, and it's always forever there.
It's absolutely wild. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good. Let's touch a little bit more about the negatives of SMS, just because it is something that people need to be mindful of. How do we not look spammy when creating SMS? So I don't SMS too much. Yeah.
I feel like
frequency.
Yeah, I feel like frequency is a big thing here, because at the end of the day, SMS is super intimate, right? If you go to a club and try and get a girl's number, it's very hard because it's an intimate thing. It's very close to them. It's super personal. That's why it works really well once you build that trust, right? And you build that trust to get their SMS, but at first, it's super personal, it's super intimate. So I love to take the frequency to, at the moment, we're trialing, probably once every couple of weeks, so almost bi-weekly. It could be more, it could be less. You probably want to judge on, I'd say, your click-through rate. You kind of have a look. Is it lowering? Is your unsubscribe going up? and you can kind of find a happy medium. But I definitely would just, first and foremost, not to be spammy, is just decrease the frequency. And I think I love content, I love offering value, but I think you can't.
What's an example of good content that's not an offer?
For an SMS, I don't think there is one. And there probably is, but I feel like it's a very expensive channel, and you really would prefer an ROI. I think a really good way of automatically reaching out to people probably is just shipping notifications. I feel like just letting them know, hey, something's on its way. Probably even, this is one I just actually introduced to Ryan as well, and we want to try and do the same thing. Reviews. Asking for reviews through text message, and they can return like a selfie. That's a really good way to reach out that's non-transactional. A lot of the time I think it's going to be automation based, right? So it's going to be based on behavior. That's how you're not going to be spammy, is it's going to be based on what's the behavior of the customer, where are they at in their journey right now, so that I'm not spammy. You know, I'm not going to reach out to X, Y, and Z who just bought theirs like 2 days ago, haven't received it yet, and trying to sell them on something. So behavior, frequency, and to me, I feel like automation. So being shipping notifications, sometimes you could probably do order confirmations. But a really good one there is, and I learned this yesterday actually, was that of kind of, let's call it gathering UGCs through reviews. And you can set up behavioral segmentations or behavioral automations like, oh, this person, like I think they can do delivered, because Shopify has the ability to know when it's been delivered. So you can do trigger when delivered, wait 2 days, and they'll be like, hey, what's up? Notice that you got your order, or you can wait 3 days, just making sure that they weren't out for the weekend or something. Notice you got your order, wanted to see how it went, love to see a selfie. Something like that.
Amazing. This wasn't in my list of questions to ask you, but I'm just genuinely curious. In terms of, there's a lot of new SMS providers that's more conversational. So it's, I do think PostScript has the opportunity to reply and whatnot, but there's a lot of new software that's coming out that either has automated replies based on certain keywords and stuff like that. And it's just really trying to get that ROI up. Are you familiar with many of those? And
So I am, but not in the e-commerce space.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's great. I feel like it's a good direction. I feel like PostScript could really look into that. I feel like Klaviyo could too. I've seen a lot of these artificial intelligence, natural language processing bots that will, if this person says X, they'll reply with Y. I think that's a really, really good route to go down. But I think it's also dangerous too, because we want to make sure that our customer feels like they're being cared for. I mean, in a world where we're turning more into bots and everything's becoming more automated, I think we're going to start to miss that human touch. And in my experience, I feel like emotion is a huge thing for a customer, being able to first and foremost understand it when a customer's frustrated, or if a customer's happy, because you can capitalize on a happy customer by getting the UGC, but you can avoid a bad review if a customer's in a bad mood.
Exactly.
And you can sense that. So personally, I prefer to keep my communication on if I'm communicating with a customer, customers are hyper important, you know that. Feedback, discussion, everything. I think if we start to use bots in e-commerce, it's a massive missed opportunity to learn what went wrong. But there's still a place for it. I don't think Post has introduced that yet, but I feel like they will shortly.
For sure. What are some other best practices, some just general list hygiene? Is that a thing in SMS or? So
just the text to opt out.
Yeah.
Making sure, because
When they sign up, if they read the message, they probably will. Most
that's
people
compliant. That's required.
It is, but it's not required once they've signed up. You probably want to do it every couple of blasts. Like with your brand at the moment, we trialed without it and it was working really well. We didn't put it in every single message, because once they opt in, one of the first messages tells them, hey, to opt out, this. And as somebody explained to me from, he was originally in Twilio, but he works for PostScript now. His name's Wasim. He's kind of like the guy who helps strategize and stuff, and I'm always up at calls with him 6, 7 a.m. in the morning because he's in Canada.
Love it.
And he says to me, you got to think of it this way: if you always tell them text to opt out, first and foremost, you're kind of instructing them, and secondly, if you just caught them in a day that they're in a bad mood, they're going to opt out.
Exactly.
But people know that if they just type stop, if they type there's ways to get out of it. It's important that you make it very, very well known on how they can opt out. But for me, list hygiene in SMS, because it's so easy and everyone gets it, I think it's going to do its own cleaning. And that's what we've experienced, is they tend to do their own kind of if they don't want it, they'll jump out, and that's nice and easy.
For sure. How's it gonna change? What does the future look like for SMS?
Kind of similar to that wine library.
Yeah.
How they did their wine text. There's something going on in the Shopify's API. PostScript are doing it. Attentive are doing it. PostScript call it PostScript Pay. And it's that of once a customer's purchased, their information gets saved in Shopify. And once it's saved in Shopify, they can literally you can send an upsell. So for example, one of your top products. And then you say, okay, well, this is our second best selling product. Has this person got it? No. Okay, we'll send this as an automation. And they can simply text back with like #buy, and it will charge their credit card and ship to them without them going to a checkout. So literally turning the conversation that you're having with the customer on SMS into a potential payment platform. Yeah. I think that's a massive. In Australia, I think it'll be a while till we get that because, Australia's like very conservative in those types of developments, but it's becoming a thing in America. I try to get your brand fast-tracked.
Yeah.
We're fast-tracked, but only for Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a massive, massive direction. But
frictionless e-commerce is going to be big, even just with Instagram shopping and stuff like that. It's just going to be huge sales channels. So yeah, I reckon that's it. Is there anything else we're missing that the listeners should know?
Just start now.
Just get into it.
Yeah, get into it. Everyone's so scared, and you know what? Everyone does. Everyone focuses so heavily on paid media, and I agree with it. I mean, I built my whole entire business on retention marketing, so I totally understand where the pain comes from media buying, because we look at email, we look at SMS. It doesn't have the scalability potential that Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all these types of paid traffic channels. Google. Why did I miss Google? All these types of paid media channels, they have this potential to scale up to $1 million a month, 2 million, 3 million. Facebook email doesn't have that. But what it does have is the ability to boost your profit margins, because for example, if you send an email, you know how much profit is on that. Because you own that list, that's your data. You no longer have to advertise to it. SMS, the same thing, being so much higher. I mean, we've seen, for like your brand, we've seen some receipts, like every time we send an SMS, it's worth like $26 every time we send it to you. And we've got some that are at like 30, 40, 50% clicks, which is absurd. And if you're not doing that, if you're missing out on that, you're just like literally taking money out of your pocket. You may as well burn that, because you're just losing out on money whenever you're not doing SMS, whenever you're not doing email, whenever you're not doing any type of retention marketing where you yourself, the business owner, owns the list, owns the data. And a good example is, I've had this happen multiple times through my career. But a really obvious one was, I had a friend of mine, I'll change his name to Daniel, because he was a very private person. And he had a store, he had a pet store. And he sold things for cats. And he was crushing it, probably doing like $500,000, $600,000 a month just drop shipping. He was doing white labeling, so shipping times were better and the product was, labeled with his own brand. But at the end of the day, just once out of nowhere, I think we started like $20,000 a month on his email campaigns. Slowly over time, 2-3 years go down the track, we got up to 50, 60K a month, every single month. And he was just making that every single month. And I think his profit margins was probably 70% on email. So, because he was just paying for the product. And one day, Facebook just did his thing, where it's just decided, bang hammer. And turns out it was a verification. It was verifying his identity. Because I think somebody had logged in from somewhere else, and Facebook was pulled that out, shut his account down. He had to verify his identity, show his passport, show his birth certificates, all that stuff to prove who he is. And meanwhile, 3 weeks goes down the track where he has no traffic. And he should have diversified Google, everything else. But he didn't. But fortunately, he had email. So that whole time where he was making zero revenue, we was making actually more, because he wasn't able to remarket, he wasn't able to sell. Exactly. So we were just pumped up the sales. We sold, we started sending where we'd send more content. We started to send more sales. And all of a sudden he's making 60, 70, 80K a month from his email, which at that time, really saved his butt.
Yeah.
He would have been effed without it.
Yeah. It's really hard to clear stock without a good, healthy email list as well. You can get in a whole lot of trouble there. So anyway, where can people find out more about you? Where can they get in touch?
I got multiple places, but I always say my Facebook.
Yeah.
My Facebook's always a good one, because I love to build one-to-one one-to-one real relationships with people. It's either that or probably my agency website. I was actually thinking about doing a little e2.agency/Davie-SMS.
Beautiful.
And everything we talked about in here, I'll put on there. Probably put a little guide that everyone can download for free.
And even though I'm an email marketer, I will not put it behind an email.
Yes, you will.
And I'll just track them on a pixel.
We'll chuck the link in the bio. So, good episode today. I think we will incorporate SMS probably in the maybe 2 or 3 episodes. So first we need to sign off on the product that we're launching. We've got to create content, we've got to launch the site. And then as soon as we're driving traffic to the store, we want that SMS set up. Obviously the main takeaway is make sure you're compliant. It's not that difficult if you're willing to do the research and check all the boxes. Work with good providers like PostScript, they're the main thing. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.